Welcome to our exploration of women's leadership in environmental action. Around the world, the intersection of gender equality and environmental sustainability is gaining recognition. Women's participation in decision-making is not just a matter of fairness, it's a catalyst for more ambitious climate goals and stronger policies. Today, we'll journey through public governance, business, and civil society to see how women are shaping a greener future. We'll also uncover the barriers they face and the policy actions that can help close the gender gap. Let's dive in and discover why women's leadership matters for our planet. Connection between gender equality and environmental sustainability is clear. Environmental degradation often impacts women and men differently, shaped by social roles and economic vulnerability. For example, women are more likely to be affected by indoor air pollution and lack of safe water. At the same time, women's empowerment can drive stronger environmental action. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals recognize these links, making gender equality a key part of global environmental progress. Environmental challenges don't affect everyone equally. Women in rural or indigenous communities may face unique hardships, such as spending hours collecting water or fuel. Meanwhile, women often take on caregiving roles during natural disasters. Studies show that women are more likely to recycle, buy eco-friendly products, and support clean energy policies. These behaviors highlight the importance of including women's perspectives in environmental decision-making. Surveys reveal that women often perceive environmental risks as more immediate and personal than men do. In many countries, women are more likely to see climate change as a serious threat. However, in some developing countries, men may report higher concern, possibly due to differences in education. This underscores the need for equal access to education, not just for gender equality, but also for building environmental awareness across society. Men's leadership brings real benefits to environmental action. Research shows that when women are present in government, corporations, and grassroots organizations, environmental outcomes improve. Women leaders often prioritize sustainability, drive stronger policies, and foster more inclusive decision-making. These positive effects ripple through communities, supporting the achievement of global goals like the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Public governance, women's leadership helps bring diverse experiences to the table. Evidence shows that women in political power are more likely to champion gender-sensitive issues and encourage broader participation. Studies of parliaments in Europe and the United States reveal that women spend more time addressing environmental topics than their male counterparts. Countries with more women in parliament often see improvements in environmental quality and progress on sustainability goals. Gender balance in environment ministries can shape the direction of climate negotiations. When women participate meaningfully in policy discussions, they push for more ambitious and lasting agreements. However, the gender gap in top decision-making roles remains wide, especially in regions most vulnerable to climate change. In OECD countries, women make up 39% of environment ministers, but in sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia, and Latin America, the numbers are much lower. Gender gap in environmental leadership is especially pronounced in regions facing the harshest climate impacts. In sub-Saharan Africa, only 28% of environment ministers are women, despite women making up a large share of the agricultural workforce. In South and Southeast Asia, women hold just 14% of these positions. Latin America and the Caribbean see only 7% female environment ministers, even though women dominate sectors like tourism that are highly sensitive to climate change. Gender disparity isn't limited to top leadership roles. Across government ministries, women are underrepresented, especially in infrastructure sectors like energy, transport, and communications. In OECD countries, women make up only 18% of staff in these ministries, compared to 38% in sociocultural ministries. This imbalance limits the diversity of perspectives in crucial policy areas tied to environmental outcomes. Men's representation in international environmental negotiations is improving, but gaps remain. National focal points to key UN conventions show better gender balance in OECD countries and parts of Latin America, but low representation in regions most affected by climate change. These director-level roles are vital for shaping global agreements, making women's participation essential for inclusive and effective outcomes. Looking at the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, we see mixed progress. While some regions achieve near gender parity among national focal points, others lag far behind. This is concerning as these regions are often the most exposed to climate risks and would benefit from more inclusive leadership. From 2008 to 2019, women's participation in national delegations to UNFCCC conferences of the parties steadily increased in many OECD countries. Some countries like Australia and Sweden even surpassed 50% female representation. However, others have yet to appoint a woman to lead their delegation. Representation is only the first step. Ensuring women's voices are heard and their expertise valued is equally important. Simply counting women in negotiating forums isn't enough. True influence depends on their ability to participate fully and have their perspectives considered. Barriers like language, race, and social norms can limit women's impact, especially in international settings. Addressing these challenges requires targeted support, training, and a commitment to intersectionality in environmental leadership. Close the gender gap in public governance, countries are adopting policies that promote women's leadership. These include clear institutional roles, independent recourse mechanisms, and leadership training for female civil servants. Non-governmental initiatives like negotiation training and mentorship programs also play a crucial role in building women's capacity to lead in environmental negotiations. The private sector, gender diversity at the senior level is linked to better business outcomes and stronger environmental performance. Companies with more women on their boards are more likely to invest in sustainability and adopt responsible business practices. However, women remain underrepresented in management, especially in sectors like construction, energy, and utilities. Women's presence on corporate boards makes a measurable difference. Studies show that when women occupy at least 30% of board seats, companies are more likely to prioritize climate governance and innovation. Yet only about a third of global enterprises meet this threshold, and many have very few women in leadership roles. Closing this gap is essential for driving sustainable business practices. Data from G20 countries shows that women are least represented in management roles in environmentally sensitive sectors. Construction, energy, and utilities have the lowest shares of women in senior positions. Even in renewable energy, women are more likely to hold administrative rather than technical or leadership roles. Educational barriers and workplace culture contribute to this persistent gap. Women entrepreneurs are making strides in green business, often displaying stronger pro-environmental attitudes and a commitment to sustainability. However, they face significant barriers including limited access to finance, lack of networking opportunities, and social constraints. Addressing these challenges can unlock women's potential to drive innovation and sustainability in the private sector. Women-led startups, especially in green technology, face a significant investment gap. Boards of later-stage startups are much less likely to include women, and unconscious bias can limit opportunities. Early-stage support, mentorship, and targeted investment are key to fostering women's participation in developing innovative solutions for climate change. Policy toolkits and programs are emerging to promote women's leadership in green business. These include gender criteria in public procurement, access to finance, and training initiatives. Partnerships between the private sector, universities, and civil society are helping women build the skills and networks needed to succeed in sustainability-focused roles. Mentorship programs are vital for supporting women in energy and environment-related industries. Initiatives like Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability and the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition provide training, networking, and resources. These efforts help women overcome barriers and advance into leadership positions, strengthening the green economy. Women's leadership in civil society, especially in NGOs and grassroots movements, delivers tangible environmental benefits. Studies from India, Nepal, and Africa show that when women participate in resource management, outcomes improve, forests are better conserved, water services last longer, and benefits are shared more equitably. Women's voices are crucial for effective community-based environmental action. At the grassroots level, women are often at the forefront of environmental activism. Their leadership in local organizations and movements has led to innovative solutions in waste management, conservation, and sustainable agriculture. However, their contributions are sometimes overlooked, and they may face cultural barriers or even violence for their activism. Women's representation in international NGOs is growing. At the 2021 UNFCCC Conference of the Parties, women made up over 40% of delegates from environmental NGOs and indigenous organizations. However, women still account for a small share of total NGO staff, especially at the highest levels. Increasing their presence can amplify the impact of civil society in global climate negotiation. Indigenous women are powerful defenders of the environment. In Ecuador and Brazil, women have led movements to protect rainforests and demand sustainable policies. Their activism often comes at great personal risk, including threats of violence. Supporting and recognizing indigenous women's leadership is essential for effective environmental protection. Women in civil society face multiple barriers, from cultural norms to direct threats. In some cases, environmental defenders have been targeted with violence or intimidation. Over 1 in 10 environmental defenders killed in 2020 were women. Addressing these risks and creating safe spaces for women's activism is vital for sustaining grassroots environmental action. Supporting women-led grassroots movements can transform communities. Recognizing local women as sustainability actors, providing training in microfinance, and building networks all help amplify their impact. Programs like the Women's Earth Alliance Accelerator and Women's Environmental Leadership Australia connect women leaders and provide resources to drive change. Addressing the gender-environment nexus requires comprehensive policy action. Governments can promote women's leadership by tackling discrimination, supporting training and mentoring, and partnering with educational institutions and the private sector. Financing women's green entrepreneurship and applying a gender lens to environmental regulations are also key strategies. Track progress. We need better data on women's environmental leadership. Key indicators include the number of female heads of ministries, delegates to international negotiations, and women in corporate boards and green startups. Collecting and analyzing this data helps identify gaps and informs policies to support women's advancement in environmental action. Some useful indicators for measuring women's leadership include the gender breakdown of environmental ministries, the number of female heads of delegations to climate conferences, and the share of women on boards of climate funds. Tracking these metrics over time can reveal where progress is being made and where more effort is needed. Education is a powerful tool for advancing both gender equality and environmental awareness. Equal access to education helps women build the skills and confidence needed to lead in environmental fields. Partnerships with universities and training programs can prepare the next generation of women leaders to tackle climate challenges. Social norms and stereotypes often limit women's opportunities to lead. Addressing these barriers requires changing attitudes, supporting work-life balance, and challenging discrimination. Policies that promote flexible working conditions and parental leave can help women advance in both public and private sectors. Women's experiences in environmental leadership are shaped by multiple factors, including race, nationality, and socioeconomic status. Intersectionality recognizes that barriers and opportunities differ across groups. Effective policies must address these intersecting challenges to ensure all women can participate fully in environmental action. Role models play a crucial role in inspiring women to pursue leadership in environmental fields. Highlighting the achievements of women leaders in government, business, and civil society can motivate others to follow in their footsteps. Mentorship and visibility are key to building a pipeline of future leaders. Women's networks provide support, resources, and opportunities for collaboration. These networks connect women across sectors and regions, fostering innovation and amplifying their impact. Building and sustaining these networks is essential for advancing women's leadership in environmental action. Data collection and analysis are vital for understanding and improving women's representation in environmental leadership. Reliable data helps identify gaps, measure progress, and inform policy decisions. Investing in data systems ensures that women's contributions are visible and valued. Research confirms the positive impact of women's leadership on environmental outcomes. The challenge now is to translate this evidence into concrete actions through policy reforms, targeted programs, and cultural change. By acting on what we know, we can accelerate progress toward both gender equality and environmental sustainability. A holistic approach is needed to address the complex links between gender and the environment. This means considering how policies in one area affect outcomes in another and seeking synergies between gender equality and sustainability. Collaboration across government, business, and civil society is essential for lasting change. Women environmental defenders often face unique risks, including violence and intimidation. Protective measures are needed to ensure their safety and enable them to continue their vital work. Governments and organizations must prioritize the security and well-being of women activists, especially in high-risk regions. Access to finance is a major barrier for women in green entrepreneurship and leadership. Targeted funding, microfinance, and investment programs can help women launch and scale sustainable businesses. Ensuring equal access to climate funds and green investment opportunities is key to unlocking women's potential. Designing inclusive policies means involving women at every stage, from consultation to implementation. Policies that reflect women's experiences and priorities are more likely to succeed. Governments should ensure that women's voices are heard in environmental planning and decision-making processes. Men play an important role as allies in advancing gender equality in environmental leadership. Supporting women's participation, challenging stereotypes, and advocating for inclusive policies benefits everyone. Building a culture of allyship helps create more equitable and effective environmental action. The path to gender equality in environmental leadership is ongoing. Continued research, policy innovation, and cultural change are needed to close the gap. By working together, we can ensure that women's voices and leadership are central to building a sustainable future for all. Women's leadership in environmental action is essential for achieving both gender equality and sustainability. From public governance to business and civil society, women are making a difference, but barriers remain. Policy actions, education, and support networks can help close the gap. By valuing and empowering women's contributions, we move closer to a greener, more just world. As we conclude, remember that everyone has a role to play in supporting women's leadership for the environment. Whether through policy, business, education, or community action, your efforts can help create a more inclusive and sustainable future. Let's work together to ensure that women's voices are heard and their leadership recognized in the fight for our planet.